Hello everybody, welcome back to Walking with Jesus Daily. This is day 189. This is the milk section, which means we do have a mashup and we do have a couple different verses to go through today. We will be in Luke 9:28 through 32. We will be in Matthew 17, 1 through 3, and Mark 9, 2 through 4. And we'll do the mashup after that. Back-to-back heavy studies. We've done this a time or two this year where we've had some kind of big stuff that we've covered on back-to-back days. Yesterday's was especially heavy, probably a 3-dayer, but we went ahead and decided to wrap it up into one. For what reason, I do not know. But it's a very important lesson from yesterday, with after Jesus asking that question, who does the world say I am? Who do you say I am? And Jesus giving, letting us know that this would be the foundation of his church. And then going right into to yesterday's lesson, how well that blends is amazing to me, but also how how Peter speaks up in two situations, both times most likely feeling some sort of conviction, most likely both times feeling some kind of way that that he's all for Jesus, and Jesus has to correct him quickly. And I just couldn't help but continue to think about the importance that we get out of God's way and keep our minds on the things of God. We've got to keep our minds stayed on the things of God and not on the things of man. And if it's things that we're thinking about that have nothing to do with God, his kingdom, spiritual future, any of these kind of things, that they all can be considered kind of a waste of our time with thinking and with talking. Today's lesson, just by the title of it, is one of my all-time favorites. I know I say that about every other lesson, but there is no other lesson like today's. There is no other lesson like others. Okay. Clearly I lose this battle. So let's dig into the lesson today. If you have not spent time in prayer, please do that. If you have not been able to praise or to in singing, or if you have not been able to serve or to be selfless or to glorify God with whatever you can, please do those things. We as humans were meant to be that way. All right. Let's dig in here. Luke 9:28 through 32. Now about 8 days after these sayings, all right, he took with him Peter and John and James and went up on the mountain to pray. And as he was praying, the appearance of his face was altered, and his clothing became dazzling white. And behold, 2 men were talking with him, Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spoke of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and those who were with him were heavy with sleep. But when they became fully awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men who stood with him. Wow. Okay. It's hard to not tear through this right away. Let's go to Matthew 17, 1 through 3. And after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he, Jesus, was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with them. And lastly, Mark's account. Mark 9, 2 through 4. And after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them. And his clothes became radiant, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. All right. So we have an event here unlike any other that we have talked about before. I am interested, just really quick, in seeing no real difference. Well, I'm just looking at Luke saying 8 days and Matthew and Mark saying 6 days. Mark and Matthew both say, and after 6 days. Luke says, now about 8 days after these sayings. It could be 8 days after these sayings began. I don't know. It's not a discrepancy in what actually happened. It's just a discrepancy or a change in each of the writers' timeline and in what they're referring to and what took place. Either way, that is not the point. The point is what took place. Well, we'll talk about what these things mean when we're in the meat section. But in the milk section, we are talking about Jesus being transfigured, meaning that the appearance of his face was altered while he was in prayer. And Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him up on this mountain. And most likely, the reason it mentions 6 or 8 days is most likely this was a time spent in fasting. This is also most likely why they were so tired. And Moses and Elijah, and they were talking about his departure. It's very interesting. Honestly, don't know if I've read that before. So we'll dig into this when we go to the meat section. I'm going to go ahead and shut this one down. That gives you plenty to think about, plenty to study, and plenty to pray on. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.